Welcome to today's webinar, Combating Cybercrime, hosted by the University of Fairfax. Please contact the University Admissions Office at the contact information on your screen. I would now like to introduce today's presenter, Mr. Michael Pry. Michael Pry is Director of Continuous Improvement and Enterprise Risk Management at Excella Health. Michael has a Master of Science in Computer Science and Information Assurance from the University of Maryland, which is designated as a National Center of Academic Excellence in Information Assurance and Cyber Defense Education by the National Security Agency and the Department of Homeland Security, and a Bachelor of Arts in Criminal Justice and Russian Studies from Edinburgh University of Pennsylvania. He serves as the Healthcare Sector Chief within the Federal Bureau of Investigation's InfraGard program for the Pittsburgh chapter, serves on the Joint Coordinating Council for the Department of Homeland Security and U.S. Health and Human Services, and is a member of their risk management and cybersecurity work groups. Michael also is an assistant professor of information security and computer forensics at American Intercontinental University, where he has taught for 7 years and developed numerous courses in cybersecurity and computer network management. Michael is a member of the Project Management Institute and the American College of Healthcare Executives. Please join me in welcoming Mr. Michael Pry.
Hello, everyone, and thank you for giving me an opportunity to speak to you on our current topic, which is on cybercrime. When we think about cybercrime, we recognize that this is an emerging term that folks haven't had a chance to hear about yet, but yet is still covered on many news channels. What is cybercrime? Cybercrime is defined as criminal activities which are carried out by means of computers or the internet. Computer crime is defined as crimes that use computer networks or devices to advance other ends, to include fraud and identity theft. Also, with the increasing use of malware, hacking, and phishing attacks, we see that computer crime can occur with both a focus on the computer as a target, as well as the computer as a tool for committing the crime. Also, under the form of computer crime or cybercrime, we have the field of information warfare and phishing scams. So the term cybercrime serves as an umbrella over many, many terms that can best be summarized by looking at the computer and the computer networks and the various ways crimes can be committed with the use of those items or with those items as a target. What are some examples of cybercrime? Well, computer crime laws can prohibit a person from performing certain acts without authorization. Some of these type of crimes include improperly accessing a computer network, a system, or an individual computer. We can see that crime can occur from the modification, damage, using, disclosing, copying, or taking programs or data off of a computer or off of a system network. A crime could occur through introducing a virus or other contaminant into the computer system. A crime could occur by using a computer in a scheme to defraud or by interfering with someone else's computer access or their use. Using encryption as a way to aid in committing a crime, by falsifying email source information, and from stealing information service from a provider. So why should you care about cybercrime? Well, one main reason is that because you could become a victim of cybercrime. You could have the loss of information to include your personal identifiable information, and this is information that could be used to establish credit card accounts, such as your name, date of birth, social security number. It could be information that could be used to submit your tax returns on your behalf, where the hacker would get your refund instead of you. We also see that there is a growing risk to healthcare information today, that cyber criminals are focused on stealing healthcare records and selling those records in an area called the dark web, which is a place where hackers can go to sell the information that they've stolen. And that healthcare records are selling for a premium worth more so than your regular personal identifiable information. Another way that you can become a victim is if you're a corporation, you could suffer the loss of your intellectual property and trade secrets. Millions of dollars can be invested into research and development and creating a new product or an innovative service that you wish to offer for sale. And somebody could steal that information from you before you get it to market and benefit from all of your research without having to incur the cost of it. So intellectual property and trade secrets becomes a very big concern when it comes to the area of cybercrime. Another way that you can become a victim is from the loss of your computer resources. This is where your computer is actually being used by the hacker, not necessarily in the information on it that they are trying to steal, but to gain access to the computer to actually use it. And then the next slide, I'll go over some details related to this topic. Next, we can see that cybercrime can also cost society as a whole. You could experience an increase of cost of goods and services sold because the cost of crime is passed on to the consumer via higher prices. So when an organization suffers a data breach and they have to remediate the problems associated with that data breach, where they have to pay for the victim's remediation and they have to improve the security of their components and their systems, that the cost of that is passed on to the consumer through higher prices. We also have the risk to national security and critical infrastructure. So this risk makes us less safe. Think about the computer crimes associated with hacking the electrical infrastructure or dams and waterways, things that can have a magnified impact on society as a whole. So what types of cybercrime can also occur where the computer is the target? Well, we could have unauthorized access. Now, how does a hacker gain unauthorized access to your computer? Well, malware infection is a very big way that this is accomplished. You could have malware infection via spam, which enables a phishing attack. In this type of scenario, a hacker is going to prepare an email that goes out on a broad basis to a broad audience of people. This is known as spam, where you receive email into your inbox that is unwanted or unsolicited. With phishing-enabled spam email, there will be a hyperlink embedded in that email that the hacker is hoping that you will click on. And by clicking on that link, it will install a virus on your computer, enabling the hacker to have access to your computer. These are the most broad-based forms of attack. Next, we have a malware infection via social engineered enabled spear phishing. These are a very focused form of attack. In this type of scenario, a hacker is trying to learn as much about you as possible. They may go out to social networking sites such as LinkedIn or Facebook. They may look at public records and any source of information that could be found on the internet where they could gather as much information about you as possible, and to then use that information to craft an email to you that would give them the greatest probability of you clicking on the link. Again, just like with a phishing attack, the goal is to install the malware onto your computer, giving the hacker access to it. The difference between broad-based spam attacks and spear phishing attacks is that spear phishing attacks have a much greater rate of success, although they require a much higher significant amount of front-end work, as you can imagine. The next is malware infection via website through cross-site scripting. Here, the hacker injects client-side scripts into web pages that are viewed by others. If you've ever been surfing the internet, going to different pages that you've been searching on, and you just click on a page and a virus automatically installs itself on your computer. That is an example of how this would work, where just simply visiting a website will open you up to receive the virus onto your computer, and again, providing the hacker access to it. And one of the older forms of attack is malware infection via the user-initiated downloads infected with a Trojan horse. Here you go out to a location on the internet and you intentionally download a file to your computer that you trust to be safe. However, hidden within that trusted file is malware, known as a Trojan horse, where it's kind of sneaking into your computer via the download and infecting it and opening a backdoor for the hacker to gain access. Now, why would the hacker want to gain access to your computer? How could they possibly benefit from their efforts? Well, one area is to steal information from your computer. These are things that can be sold. Earlier, I mentioned personal identifiable information to include credit cards, tax information, and healthcare data. Another trend that is occurring is using your computer to access your video and audio and streaming that from your PC, almost using your PC as a type of bugging device where they can view you through your own camera or listen to you through your own microphone. Another form of attack is to harvest information off of your hard drive that could potentially be embarrassing, such as pictures that you may have stored or files with embarrassing information in it, and using it in a form of attack known as doxing. In a doxing attack, it is similar to a ransomware attack where the hacker is wanting for you to pay them money. In a ransomware attack, they are encrypting your hard drive and asking you to pay a fee to receive the decryption key so that you can view the data on your hard drive again. In a doxing attack, they are taking embarrassing information off of your computer and asking you to pay them a fee to prevent them from releasing it in a public way. Either of these, in a way, is a form of extortion. Another way the hacker can use your computer is as a resource. They can utilize the CPU processing time by running applications in the background. Whenever they connect multiple computers across the internet, they can magnify the processing capability of their work by using multiple computers for processing that work. So let's say, for example, a hacker is trying to force break somebody's encryption. Using a single computer, it may be difficult to do a brute force attack against somebody's encryption algorithm. However, if they were to leverage 1,000 computers that are all joined together and to have them trying to do the brute force attack on the encryption, they could be much more successful. Another type of resource theft is your network bandwidth, where they're not so much concerned with your computer or the data that's on it, but using it as a platform to steal your network bandwidth. Here, the hacker could be using your computer to launch attacks against other computers, or simply to do other nefarious deeds on the internet for which they don't want to be held accountable. And finally, there's the concept of stealing your wireless network via a concept known as war driving. In war driving, what a hacker does is they drive around different neighborhoods trying to determine if there are any Wi-Fi signals that are not secured. And then they gain access to individuals' home network or business networks via the unsecured connection, and then they utilize your wireless network as a platform to either just access network resources or as a vehicle for launching other types of attacks. When we examine computer crime, where the computer is the tool for committing the crime, there's a lot of different avenues where the computer has now become the tool. First, we can see it being used to develop software, which can be used to launch attacks on other computer systems. Malware development and distribution is a form of computer crime. A distributed denial of service attack is a form of computer crime. In the DDoS attack, a hacker will infect many different computers, sometimes known as bots or zombies. These computers have an infection on them that is waiting to be called into action. The end user may have no knowledge that this infection exists on their computer until the hacker uses a command and control server to awaken all of the computers to focus on a single server or a single network domain and flood it with ping requests in an effort to overload that system's ability to respond to network requests and therefore denial services to all legitimate users. Next, we see that the computer can be used as a tool for intrusion and unauthorized access. Computers can also be used as a crime in publishing online content that is offensive and prohibited. Computers are used as for crime in committing cyberbullying, a topic that has recently been highlighted in many news articles. The fear of cyberbullying and the pervasiveness of social media helps to enable cyberbullying to become even a greater threat to society. We can see the computer is used as a tool with fraud when buying and selling things online that may not be completely legitimate, and for also facilitating online scams. Finally, the computer can be used as a tool in committing website defacement in situations where we see hacktivist attacks, where the hacktivist is trying to make a public statement, something to promote their cause, and they will deface someone's website in order to advance the message related to their cause. So now that we have a general understanding of what cybercrime is and the different forms that it can take, who are the people who are doing this? What are the different categories of cyber criminals? I hold out that there are two buckets that this could be understood from, those that are role-based and those that are organization-based. With role-based cyber criminals, we have malware authors. These are individuals who will examine different software operating systems and applications, and they will try to discover vulnerabilities that exist within those applications, and they will write malware that is specifically designed to exploit those vulnerabilities. They will then seek to sell this malware to others who would use it, or they use it in attacks themselves. We have phishers. These is a type of role-based criminal who focus specifically on the phishing style of attack. Their goal is to steal personal information from you and are typically financially motivated by their actions. In addition, we have scammers, individuals who are using the internet as a way to perpetuate some type of scam, and again, their motives are financial. A common type of internet scam that we see today is often associated with fundraising around natural disasters. For example, if you were to have a hurricane or tornado hit a particular community, scammers would then send out emails soliciting donations to help the people that were affected by that disaster, preying on the goodwill of kind-hearted people who would donate money to that cause. The scammers collect that money and use it for their own nefarious purposes, and it never sees its way to the actual victims. And we have social engineers, people that specialize in gathering information about people that can then be used to foster the types of scams and phishing attacks that are used by other criminals. Social engineers can also use their techniques of manipulating the trust that other people have in order to gain access to their individual computers or to their facilities so that they can install malware on those computers and gain access to them. The goal of the social engineer is to gain access to systems and to access information within those systems, but they do it in a way that is often non-technical in nature. They do it in human-to-human contact. In the organization-based cybercriminal, we have lone wolf actors. The lone wolf actors might be one or a couple people who are working relatively independently. They're not associated with any one group and are typically opportunist. Next, we have the professional hacker. A professional hacker isn't just dabbling around like the lone wolf attacker is doing. They make their living hacking other systems. Typically, the professional hacker, though, is not associated with any large group of people, but is making a living by hacking and doing it for their own personal gain. The nation-state actor is associated with a known and established country, and they are often serving in that country's military or in an intelligence agency. The nation-state actor's job is to try to gather as much information on a target company as possible, to steal intellectual property and trade secrets, to give its host company a competitive advantage, and to gather intelligence through any means possible. Nation-state actors also prepare for types of warfare that could dismantle the critical infrastructure of target nations. We have hacktivists. Hacktivists typically are not financially motivated in their attacks, but rather in fostering support for their individual cause, and will use hacking as a way to promote or support their cause. The term trusted insider is one that is not typically thought about, but is actually one of the greatest risks that organizations have today. And that is that trusted employee who works within your organization that has legitimate access to your computer and computer network so that they can perform their job, and they utilize that access to steal information from the organization that they can then profit from on their own. So the threat of the trusted insider is one that all organizations should take very seriously and have safeguards in place to help mitigate. The trusted insider will steal intellectual property and trade secrets. They'll steal company strategy information. They'll steal personal identifiable information, and they will use this information to promote themselves and their own financial situation. And finally, we have organized crime syndicates. With organized crime syndicates, we are seeing a transfer from the conventional types of crime where you had gambling and extortion and drug dealing, and we're seeing organized crime syndicates now entering into cyberspace where they have a ability to have much greater financial gains than they have through conventional crime, and a much lower chance of being caught because of the nature of the internet, and that the risk, once if they were to be caught, the risk of being prosecuted and having a severe penalty is often lower because of the maturity of laws that exist on the books today. In deterring crime, you want to build a model of deterrence that is based on a very strong likelihood that a person is going to be caught and a very severe punishment that if they are to be caught, they would experience this severe punishment. The combination of a severe punishment and a high chance of detection deters people from wanting to commit crimes. In cyberspace, we have both a low probability of getting caught and a low impact penalty if they were to be prosecuted based on the current laws that are on the books. So this has fostered organized crime entering into cyberspace. In this slide, we see a comparison of the traditional organized crime group and how they were organized against a cybercrime group. In the slide on the left, we see that in a typical mafia organization, we have a boss. We then have an underboss, a layer of middle management, and then a group of frontline soldiers and some associates who are associated to those frontline soldiers. On the slide on the right, we see we have a criminal boss listed at the top, and then we have an underboss who could be the Trojan provider and manager, Trojan command and control, and manage the server that orchestrates all the different attacks. We can have a layer of management in the middle, who are the different campaign managers. They are connected through the affiliation networks. And then we have a group of individuals who are the stolen data resellers. So just like we see in an organized crime group, we have a defined set of organization with well-defined roles and responsibilities for each person in that organization and a methods of holding people accountable for performing their roles. We see that same structure with an organized crime in cyberspace. An interesting case study which shows how this type of cybercrime can occur and how it can be useful is around a case study called Silk Road. Silk Road was a multi-million-dollar underground marketplace that had sold illegal drugs, firearms, as well as malware. It operated for several years before being disbanded by the FBI and the ATF. The way that Silk Road worked is they utilized onion routing as a way of hiding in cyberspace so that their buying and selling couldn't be traced. They established user accounts for their buyers, user accounts for their sellers, and you could even rate your drug dealer on a 5-star score so that you could develop a sense of trust with who you're going to be dealing with. And the form of currency that was used to exchange so that it couldn't be traced was bitcoins. And by the ability of hiding in cyberspace where your network path couldn't be traced, and by using bitcoins as a form of currency, they were able to remain quite effective for many years. For those who aren't familiar with the term onion routing or Tor, the Tor software protects you by bouncing your communications around a distributed network of relays run by volunteers all around the world. It prevents somebody from watching your internet connections and from learning what sites you visit. It prevents the sites you visit from learning your physical location, and it lets you access sites which are blocked. Now, bitcoins is a type of cryptocurrency with an electronic payment system. Bitcoins use peer-to-peer technology to operate with no central authority or banks managing transactions, and the issuing of bitcoins is carried out collectively by the network. Bitcoin is open source. Its design is public. Nobody owns or controls bitcoins. Everyone can take a part in it. Through many of its unique properties, bitcoins allow exciting uses that could not be covered by any previous payment system. So for those who are interested, I'd highly recommend that you do some additional research on onion routing and bitcoins. So what are your protective strategies? How can you protect yourself and your organization from these type of crimes and from becoming a victim? First is maintain awareness of the common forms of attacks as well as malware. Simple awareness can lead you to having safer acts whenever you're using your computer, from being aware of the type of emails that are coming into you and not opening emails from people that you don't trust or know, from visiting websites where you could possibly get infected, from taking the actions to minimize your chance of becoming a victim. Next, and very important, is patching your operating systems. Patching your software and your firmware on all digital devices. If you have an organization, do this through a centralized patch management tool. Oftentimes, hackers are successful only because people have not applied patches to their operating system. The concept of the patch is relatively simple, but important for you to understand. Software is written by its developers with an intended purpose in mind. It is tested and it is released to the public for use. Hackers will examine that software and they will define vulnerabilities that exist based on looking at the product from different angles and understanding the way it was coded and how the algorithms have been designed. And they will identify vulnerabilities and develop tools that exploit those vulnerabilities so that they can then use the exploitation as a way of entering into your system and gaining access to it. Whenever these vulnerabilities are discovered, organizations will create patches or new software that is distributed out to all of the software users, and it replaces the vulnerable software with software that is now more tightly written and doesn't contain the vulnerabilities that the hackers are taking advantage of. So by applying the patches in a timely manner can significantly help to reduce your risk footprint. Next, you want to ensure that you have antivirus and anti-malware solutions, which are set to automatically update and conduct regular scans. Antivirus software is developed through a process of creating signatures. The virus software developing companies will examine a piece of malware that exists and develop a type of fingerprint for it. And they will release that fingerprint to say out to all of the subscribers of the antivirus product that they are selling to. So whenever a new virus comes out, the antivirus signature is created and it is pushed out to all of the endpoints that have the antivirus software maintained. When the antivirus software runs on your computer, it compares its library of virus signatures against what is occurring on your actual computer. If it finds a match of something that's happening on your computer to that virus dictionary, it'll say, I have a virus and I need to quarantine it. So by having up-to-date antivirus software and automatically receiving the updates from the vendor is one of the best forms of protection that you can give yourself today. I do want to caution everyone listening that there is a concept known as a zero-day attack. And this is what occurs between the time that the hacker identifies the vulnerability in the code and the time that the patch is installed on your system. This could be a period of weeks to months in which the virus has been released in the wild and is being used, and the protection measures are not yet in place. It is because of this that you must always be aware that your system could potentially be infected. Behavioral-based intrusion detection systems are becoming an emerging way of combating the zero-day attack, where the behavioral-based intrusion detection system will examine your computer system, gain an understanding of what is normal and the normal way that you're using it, And when it sees activity that is outside the scope of normal, it'll bring it to your attention to let you know that there could potentially be a problem. An example of this is perhaps you have a human resource server that contains all of your salary information, and that human resource server may only talk to another server through port 1068 on a daily basis. Now your intrusion prevention system, running behavioral-based algorithms, notices that the human resource server is now talking through port 435. It sees the change in its normal behavior, and it now notifies you that that change has occurred. This will allow for you to react. So in the event that you don't have a virus definition, you can still catch the behavior of the hacker working within your system. Another protective strategy is manning the use of privileged accounts. No user should be assigned administrative access unless absolutely needed, and only user administrator accounts when necessary. Even on your own home personal computer, you should have an administrative account in which you will install your software and your applications and run your updates. And then you should create another user account on your computer that does not have administrative privilege, meaning that it does not have the ability to install applications. By running in this type of protected mode, even if you were to receive a virus on your computer, there's a reduced chance that that virus could be installed and actually run. So this concept of managing the privilege accounts can be a great strategy. Next, we have configuring access controls, including file, directory, and network share permissions. If users only need to read specific information, they don't need write access to those files or directories. Again, a very important organizational strategy is to set your individual users up by groups. And if you have a group of people in human resources, a group of people in finance, a group of people in marketing, you can take all of the employees that work in that group and put them into, let's say, the marketing group permission folder. And in this case, they're only going to have access to the files and folders associated to the marketing department. Somebody in marketing would not be able to access the files and folders for somebody in finance. So when you create role-specific definitions that say, here's what the person's job is, here's what the file and folders are that they need access to, and limit that access, you can greatly increase your chance of success. Next is to disable macro scripts from Office files transmitted over the email, configuring your systems to automatically disable these scripts as they are being received. You can implement software restriction policies or other controls to prevent programs from executing from common ransomware locations, such as temporary folders supporting popular internet browsers, compression and decompression programs. Here, you can look at where the ransomware or malware will typically run from, and then limiting the ability of those particular folders to be able to run on your system. Despite the best strategies that you can have put into place, and by following all these good rules, sometimes bad things will still happen. And it's because of that, you want to have a very good backup strategy. You want to back up your data regularly and make sure you verify the integrity of those backups. There's nothing worse than relying on a backup and you go to restore from it and it doesn't actually work. So if you are just a personal home user working with your one laptop or your one desktop, make sure you're backing up your data files on a nightly basis. There's a lot of really great hard drives, external hard drives that you can purchase that are 1 terabyte in size or greater that has pre-installed software on them where all you do is plug the USB into your computer and it will automatically scan your hard drive, identify the files that have not been updated or backed up since the last backup, and it'll back those up for you. So think of taking advantage of that. If you have a corporation, you should think about backing up your data on a moment-to-moment basis, mirroring your data center to another data center so that your files are always ready in a type of hot site location so that you can recover instantaneously. Having good data backups is a really good way of protecting yourself from a ransomware attack. So if your computer were to become encrypted in a ransomware attack, as long as you have your data files backed up, you could just re-image your hard drive, reinstall the operating system and the applications, and be back up and running and eliminate the ransomware altogether. Finally, secure your backups. Make sure they aren't connected to the computers and networks that they are backing up, or else they will become infected also. So those protective strategies and other great strategies for cybercrime can be found at the FBI.gov website. So now, as we're facing into the future, I'd like to leave you all with a couple thoughts about the risk of emerging cybercrime that is going to be coming down the road. If you've ever heard of the term Moore's Law, Moore's Law is the observation that the number of transistors in a dense integrated circuit will double approximately every 2 years. So why should you care about that? Well, as computer technology constantly gets better, and you can have a central processing unit that is capable of producing at 1 gigahertz today, and 2 years from now it's 2 gigahertz, and 2 years later that 2 becomes 4, then that 4 becomes 8, and that 8 becomes 16, that 16 becomes 32. We see an exponential growth in the capability of electronic systems. Operating systems and software will be written that will take advantage of that growth in that technology. And from this, we'll see a constantly emerging landscape in how technology will be used and how it will enter into our lives. Think back in the 1980s. If anyone would have told you that you would have a network-enabled refrigerator in the 1980s, they would have thought you were crazy. Why would I need to have a computer network-enabled refrigerator in my house? Now today, in 2017, go to a local appliance store and you'll find that network-enabled refrigerators are the most commonly things sold, because you certainly want to be able to access the internal camera on your refrigerator from your smartphone whenever you're at the grocery store shopping. So something that wasn't even a concept 30 years ago is now almost a must-have in the year 2017. So Moore's Law significantly introduces us to this risk of how technology can begin to overtake our lives. Now, when it comes to cybercrime, criminal innovation is often trending far ahead of the laws on our books that deter the type of crimes and exploitations that could hurt us. Criminals will seek out opportunities wherever they exist. Emerging technologies represent points of untested and unknown vulnerabilities that can be exploited. Laws may not exist or may not have matured in relation to the new forms of crime. When the modern refrigerators are developed and those really cool little camera systems are put inside of them so you can see what's on your shelf, typically the software that runs those and how they connect to your home wireless network have been designed without much security in mind. And because of that, that becomes a new point of vulnerability. To think that a hacker could gain access into your life by hacking your refrigerator or by hacking your toaster or your microwave or your oven is kind of crazy, but this is the way of the future and something that you should be aware of as a risk. Some other possible forms of cybercrime is robotics. Today, we have seen robotics greatly advance, where a lot of investment was placed in robotics in the manufacturing sector as a way of reducing cost and increasing the quality within the manufacturing process, we have seen robotics go from something that was able of completing a simple task to now it's able to handle much more sophisticated type of work. Self-driving cars are becoming very popular in the year 2017. Think about the new vulnerabilities that could exist within a self-driving car. If we are relying on that self-driving car to take us safely somewhere, what's the opportunity that somebody could hack that vehicle and take it over? Next, we have the concept of personal care robots. Robots that are being designed to serve as human companions. Within the next 20 to 30 years, we may see this being a very common use in our society. Who knows? Just kind of future casting and taking a look at where technology is today and what are its potentials for the future. Next, we have the use of drones. Currently, we see drones that are capable of being used in a professional setting, such as for the delivery of packages to your home. We also see drones being used in personal use, and these drones can be a fun toy to have, but on the opposite side, for cybercrime, they could be used for surveillance or for the concept of war driving, where the drone is enabled with the ability to connect to your Wi-Fi network in your home and to gain access to your systems. The Internet of Things is going to be an area of great possibility where some of our common drudgeries in human life may be removed from us because of the great conveniences provided by the Internet of Things. But the Internet of Things will create a whole new risk footprint that will require our awareness and our action. So what to watch for? Consider examining how new technologies will enter into your life. How many of you have smart televisions that have been installed into your home? Now your television is no longer just a receiver where it can take channels and allow you to watch some entertaining programs, but is now connected to your Wi-Fi network in your home. It downloads software updates on a regular basis. It communicates out to different organizations the channels that you're watching and how you're using your TV. It allows for you to download applications and interact with the television in a different way than you have in the past. Look at anything that's internet enabled, whether it's your refrigerator, your camera, your door locks, and then consider how those devices could be used against you. Now, I personally love technology. I'm one of the early adopters that loves to purchase technology and to bring it into my life and figure out how I can make it useful and how I can have some fun with it. So I love to be a purchaser of technology, and I will continue to purchase technology coming into the future. But I will do so in a way that is smart. As I introduce these technologies into my home, I will consider what is the shadow side or the dark side of that technology that could be used to hurt me, and I'll make sure that I'm very mindful of implementing a series of protective strategies so that I am protecting myself as much as possible from the shadow side of that great technology. You should not expect security concerns to be designed into the devices that you're purchasing. Although the vendors may have minimal security on their products, security is ultimately your responsibility. And I highly recommend that you have a layered model of security around all of your devices so that if somebody were to try to exploit the weaknesses inside your systems, they have to get through multiple layers of defenses before they can be successful. When considering the future technologies, always consider the risk versus the reward of having it. And these are ways that you can protect yourself from becoming a victim of cybercrime. So in summary, cybercrime exists in two main domains. One, where the crime can be committed against the computer, where the computer is a target of the crime, or the computer could be used as a tool for the commission of the crime. There are many different types of hackers, each with their own motivation. Hacking groups are becoming very well organized and sophisticated in their use of existing tools and ability to develop new tools. And finally, there are many things you can do to protect yourself through awareness, through maintaining patches on all of your software applications, through running the antivirus products, through configuring your home firewall, by considering the use of an intrusion detection or intrusion prevention system. You can protect yourselves from any of these future threats. So thank you very much for listening to today's webinar. If you were to have any questions, please go to Cybersecurity Live on Twitter. Thank you for listening and have a great day.